If you've checked out some of my other videos, then you may have caught wind that I have been doing this traveling, house sitting lifestyle. And I have to say that after having completed a year of traveling throughout the United States, going from home to home, best thing this summer has been exploring other people's gardens. I love fresh vegetables, and it's been pretty awesome being able to have fresh tomatoes and basil and eggplant from a garden where I didn't have to do all of the hard work like pulling weeds and watering the garden and just bringing those little baby seeds to beautiful summer life. I also find it really relaxing to watch people who are not farmers hanging out in the garden, playing with vegetables. So if you're like me, then you're welcome. Okay, so for this recipe, I'm just saying grab some fresh vegetables if you can. Now, I actually have a bunch of tomatoes, I have some eggplant. Some of the tomatoes are ripe, some of them are green. And I remember this homeowner had told me, "Hey, Ray, I think the tomatoes are done with ripening this season. They're just green. So if you want to do something with green tomatoes, go for it." I said, "Oh, I am so on it." I was really excited to go out into the garden and find some beautiful heirloom tomatoes that were red and just gorgeous and delicious. And then I found a ton of green tomatoes and some ripe cherry tomatoes as well. So I did wash these tomatoes, which is why you see this towel here, is because I had to wash everything off. And I'm just cutting everything up. I'm cutting it up. Ha ha ha. Okay, some of you got the joke. And I am the kind of person that tend to eat pretty much the same things on a daily basis. Mainly because I have a ton of food allergies. So I just feel like once I figure out what works, I'm kind of sticking to it. Also, I'm a busy little bee. And it's really just a good time saver to know that, hey, I can grab some vegetables, grab some tofu, and make what I know. And it's usually just like a big bowl of whatever. However, as I was chopping this stuff up, I was like, maybe I should do a little something different. Instead of just slapping all these vegetables into a pan and then tossing in some tofu, I should get a little creative. So you may look at this recipe and be like, would I want to make that? I'm going to tell you, I really enjoyed the final dish. I feel like this is something that I wouldn't serve as a main dish, but I would serve as like a nice starter to guests. Now, because I am traveling around, I actually don't have my own home to invite guests over to. But I will say that when I was renting a house, no one came to visit me. And I rented tons of apartments in New York City, and no one came to visit me either. So, is it that I have no friends, or just that my friends don't want to come visit where I live? With that being said, I did have a few friends that actually came to see me in New York City when I first arrived there. But I lived in New York for almost 20 years, so the one visit was plenty for people. And um, at the time when I first moved there, I was not in an apartment that was worth showing off to anybody. I think me and my roommates were still sitting on milk crates, the good old days. All right, so I'm chopping up some Japanese eggplant that I found in the garden. And we've got some heirloom tomatoes. We've got like three different types of tomatoes here, people. I also found some green beans another day. I think they were green beans. They were some sort of bean. I don't know. It was so cute and adorable. I just ate it. It's like, why even bother cooking you? Have you ever done that? Have you ever had a fresh green bean straight from the garden or fresh peas straight from the pod? I remember growing up, there were times when my mom would buy fresh green beans or fresh peas, And we, as kids, would help go ahead and snap off the ends of those green beans or shell the peas from the pod. Now, this wasn't a regular thing, but it did happen on occasion, and it is definitely experience to remember. I highly recommend um, giving the child in your life an opportunity to try that. Even if you hate cooking, it will change their relationship with food and vegetables. And you want them to enjoy vegetables so that they are healthy and don't have tons of heart problems later in life. Okay, so look at my bounty. We're just gonna pop this into the skillet. You can either have a little bit of water in your skillet or a little bit of olive oil. It's really up to you. Sometimes I just like the flavor of a little bit of fat, and so I will add a little bit of olive oil to the pan, even though I know the water from my vegetables is really going to remove any kind of charring, crispiness, or any of that stuff. But if you don't have olive oil or are just living like an oil free life, then don't do it. Just a little bit of water to keep the vegetables from sticking as the cooking gets started is totally fine. You don't need a lot of water because you have a lot of tomatoes, or at least I have a lot of tomatoes. And tomatoes are very water based. And so that water is going to cook right out. Now, if you are living somewhere where it's really hard to get fresh produce, or maybe fresh produce is very expensive, then go for frozen vegetables. They hold the same amount of nutrients. Sometimes I think in some cases it's actually a little bit more, just because once the produce is in the store and riding on the truck and sitting under lights, those nutrients start to diminish. But when it comes to frozen produce, that produce is frozen not long after it's picked, and so those nutrients are locked in a lot sooner. But I was lucky because I was able to go into this person's garden and grab some veggies. It is the end of their harvest season, and they were out of town. They're like, the season is done. Okay, so I've got here a block of firm tofu, and I have some non dairy yogurt. And I'm just cutting this tofu just to make it easier to blend. Um, it's also partly soothing for me. It's just to have a knife and just to slice stuff up. Woohoo! So I'm gonna just dump the whole thing into the blender, and then I'm gonna give like a big spoonful, maybe two big spoonfuls of this yogurt. This is my favorite brand of vegan, dairy-free yogurt. It is made from almond milk and I forgot what the other milk is. It's not made from coconut, and it's thick like Greek yogurt, and I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. I probably put in there about I did a serving of the yogurt, and there's 3 servings in a container. So I think it's like, I don't know, less than a cup, something like that. You'll figure it out. I'll figure it out too. Okay, and we've got a little bit of water just because this is kind of needing some liquid. So I did dump in here a little bit of ground ginger. You don't have to. I just had these spices, and I was like, it's getting it towards October. Let me just pop some spices in, and then I put in some pumpkin spice as well. Again, these spices are not making or breaking my life right now. Honestly, you're fine with just some salt and pepper. If you are a spicy little spice, I like spiciness, then tossing in some cayenne pepper, some paprika, um, some black pepper. Those things would be good. Okay, so I'm trying to blend, but clearly there's just no liquid in here. This is why I say have a little water on hand, because there's not enough liquid to make anything happen. So I poured in about a quarter cup of water, and we're going to give this another try. And we've got some action. Not much action, but we've got some action. Now, to make my life easier, I could have totally stirred this up a little bit, but you can see clearly I'm a little lazy, and I'm just going to shake this blender until it obeys me. But don't do that with humans. Don't shake a human until they obey you. You should probably just find another method to communicate. Like, I don't know, don't be lazy. Stop the blender, get a spoon. That would definitely have benefited me, but I chose to ignore all reason. So you want to blend this until it is smooth and creamy. Now, mind you, I usually just eat chunks of tofu with chunks of vegetables, but we are cooking down those veggies and we've got some fresh basil from the garden. And so we're dumping in this fresh basil um, and adding it to this mixture so that taste will pop. Now, I will say it is best to stop your blender and then put in your other herbs, unless you have one of those devices where there's a little chute. Like if you're using a food processor, there's usually like a little chute that you can add to. And then we're adding some more water. I added about another quarter cup because things are blended, but they are thick, and my leaves are just sitting on top. And again, shake what your mama gave you, and now we are blending, getting that basil to break down so that delicious fresh basil flavor will mix mixaroni with this tofu. So the tofu is my main source of protein, and this is good to go. Because this is so creamy, I would recommend really using this as like a little starter. It's a nice, gentle, warm starter for friends. And now I'm checking on my veggies, and as you can see, there's a lot of liquid in there. Everything has cooked down really nicely. I think these veggies cooked for about 20 minutes. You really want to, so I had some tomatoes that are green and they're not fully ripe. So I wanted to cook this until I could tell that my green tomatoes and my purple eggplant were tender. I did not want them to be crunchy or raw in the leaves. I wanted to make sure that everything was soft and tender. So that took about 20 minutes or so. If you are using frozen vegetables, or if all of your vegetables are very ripe, then and you're not using eggplant, then of course your cooking time will be much shorter. Now, if you are someone who's just like, cooking, I don't know, it's a problem. I seem to be meeting a lot of people like that lately. Then you can also do this with the microwave. However, the texture of your vegetables is just so much better when you do it on the stove. Okay, so you want to pour a little bit of your blended mixture into a bowl and warm that up for about a minute. I probably should have put a paper towel over this before putting it in the microwave, but again, I'm a little bit. I just picked vegetables out of a garden, people. I am not energized enough to do proper things like cover my mixture so that it doesn't splatter all over the microwave. Now, I was lucky; it did not splatter all over the microwave, but I'm only warming it up for like a minute, and I think I did it 30 seconds at a time. This microwave was extra fancy. I've never seen a microwave like this, and it definitely took me a while to figure it out. But I figured it out. You should be proud of me because I was proud of me. Once that is warm, you're going to go ahead and put your vegetable mixture on top of your tofu mixture. And then, my friends, enjoy. Have a seat, relax, take the load off. These dogs were definitely curious as to what I was eating and if they could get some. But I was like, no, dogs, you've already had your treats. This is mine. I will say these dogs do love tomatoes, but these tomatoes were too hot. And of course, the spices. I just didn't want to give them that. But that's okay, because you see the golden one, he's probably going to go over to the garden and get his own tomatoes. Okay, so my friends, what do you think? Will you try it? Let me know in the comments below.